What does the first presidential debate tell us about Donald Trump and Kamala Harris's views on Gaza? Both candidates were asked how they would secure a ceasefire agreement between Israel's government and Hamas. Harris said she supported Israel's right to defend itself, but how it did so matters, calling for a ceasefire and a two-state solution.
I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
Trump, on the other hand, said if he were president, the war would not have started, before switching to talk about Putin. He then accused Harris of hating Israel, saying if she were president, Israel would not exist within 2 years. Just for good measure, he added that she also hates the Arab population, because the whole place is going to get blown up.
She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up.
Trump has previously called himself the best friend Israel has ever had, saying any Jewish person voting for a Democrat should have their head examined. But Jewish Americans favor Harris over Trump by 72% to 25%, according to a recent poll by the Jewish Democratic Council of America. So, what do we know about their policies, and what can we expect from either candidate? As president, Trump broke with much of standard U.S. policy towards Israel and Palestine. He recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital, Jewish settlements in the occupied West Bank as legal, contradicting international law, and Syria's occupied Golan Heights as part of Israel. He also ended U.S. funding for the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, withdrew from the UN Human Rights Council due to anti-Israel bias, and closed the PLO's diplomatic mission to Washington. Trump also normalized relations between Israel and 4 Arab countries, something previously dependent on a two-state solution, and proposed a peace plan without consulting Palestinians that would have given Palestinians just 15% of historic Palestine. While Kamala Harris has not served as president, her record as senator and vice president is similarly skewed. She opposes any arms restrictions on Israel, instead promising to ensure America would have the strongest, most lethal fighting force in the world, and that Israel would always be able to defend itself. As a senator, she was described as more AIPAC than J Street by the Jewish Telegraphic Agency, suggesting she's more conservative than liberal on Israel policy issues. She has spoken at 2 AIPAC policy conferences, rebuked a UN Security Council resolution condemning Israel's settlement policies, and opposed the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. Many also criticized her for not giving Palestinians a speaking slot at the Democratic National Convention in August. But she was also among the half of Democrats to not attend Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's speech to Congress in July, one of the first in Biden's administration to emphasize the humanitarian suffering in Gaza, and has repeated the need to hold extremist settlers accountable and reach a two-state solution with a strengthened Palestinian Authority. However, critics see these actions merely as an effort to win back the progressive wing of the Democratic Party alienated by Biden's Israel policy before November's elections, rather than sincere policies. Both candidates have tried to paint each other as weak and incorrect on foreign policy, with Trump blaming regional escalation in the Middle East on the Biden-Harris administration.
Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened.
But the impact of Trump's policies is debated. Trump's exit from the Iran nuclear deal in 2018 has allowed Iran to resume its nuclear program, enriching its uranium to weapons-grade levels, according to the International Atomic Energy Agency. In 2019, Harris said she would rejoin the deal if Iran complied. Critics also argue that Trump's staunch support of Saudi Arabia's war on Yemen ultimately helped expand the Houthis' presence and Iran's support for the group. As president, Trump blocked bills calling both to end U.S. involvement in the war and to freeze arms exports to the kingdom. Both bills Harris supported. But for all their tough talk, the question remains, is any U.S. president willing to pressure Netanyahu into the ceasefire that 87% of Jewish Americans say they want, according to polling? Or will the paralysis continue into election night and beyond?